Hello. We're glad you're here. Welcome, everyone. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to the City of Mason and our March 22nd, 2021 business meeting of council. Lisa, could you call the roll, please?
Member Chance?
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn?
Present.
Councilmember Stricula? Vice Mayor Gilb?
Present.
Councilmember Hunterlaw?
Here.
Mayor Grossman?
Here. All right, as we always do, we're going to start our meeting off covering our meeting in prayer. Pastor Kyle Linville is here to do that, one of our dedicated chaplains, and we'll follow that immediately with the Pledge of Allegiance. So stand with us, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's pray. God, we thank you for the beautiful day, and we recognize it as a gift from you. I ask that you would give us grateful hearts to appreciate the blessings that we have from you. We ask for your blessing on this meeting tonight. Give our council members wisdom and insight as they make decisions for our community. Protect them and their families, and use them to be a blessing to our city. Thank you for the many people who serve our community. Thank you for our police, firefighters, and EMTs who put themselves in harm's way for our protection. Keep them safe as they serve. I pray that you will be honored by our meeting tonight. Amen. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. All right, item 5, we need to adopt the minutes from the March 8th council meeting. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes, please?
So moved. Second.
All right, all in favor?
Yes. Yes.
Any opposed? Okay, we also need a motion to approve the March 15th council work session, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? All right, it's time for the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a couple of items here. One, let folks know that city offices will be closed on Friday, April 2nd for the Good Friday holiday. The community center, however, will be open for regular operating hours on Friday. On Easter Sunday, April 4th, the community center will be open from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. with limited access and observance of the holiday. Next, I need to clarify, at our last meeting, I reminded folks that tax filing deadline for Mason was April 15th this year. What has happened, maybe has created some confusion for residents, is the federal government has changed the federal tax filing deadline to May 17th. The city's deadline, however, rides along with the state of Ohio, which has not made that change, at least not yet. I know that Councilmember Nelson is monitoring that at the state level. But in the interim, there is a little bit of confusion. What the city is doing, while we can't formally change our deadline to match with the federal deadline, we are trying to let folks know that we will not be assessing any late fees or penalties for folks that file between April 15th or May 17th. So effectively, that does give them the extra days to correspond with the federal deadline, even though we're not formally changing the deadline. Like I said, that conformity with the deadlines, I know Councilmember Nelson has been monitoring. We do still encourage residents that can to go ahead and file early, especially if they're due a refund, and we know several are. So if they can file early, that helps us as well as helps them get funds back to them. Finally, I do want to acknowledge some guests in the audience, including our guest from L3. I'd like to ask the city's Economic Development Director, Michelle Blair, to make some of those introductions prior to their presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It is my pleasure to be able to introduce one of the largest and most technologically influential companies in the city of Mason, Warren County, and the greater Cincinnati region, L3 Harris. We have the pleasure of having Clayton McLean, the new general manager. of L3 Harris with us, who is going to talk with you. Mark Dapor, who many of you may have even seen in the media recently. And Mark Dapor is the chief technologist with L3 and has been with the company for a good while. And Penny Benna, who runs communications and has been so gracious to help us coordinate their time to come out and talk about what is really driving the economic strategy in the city of Mason and helping companies hopefully grow and do the work that they do. So Clayton, I'll have you come up.
Thank you. Hey, fantastic. So thank you. Again, I'm Clayton McLean. I am a new general manager at L3 Harris Space and Sensors, right on Innovation Way. And so I want to first thank the city for allowing us to come in and just to present a little bit on what we do here, and then really talk about some of the exciting news we've had with the recent landing on Mars of the Perseverance spacecraft. And so very exciting to have that rover there. That includes quite a bit of our equipment. I'm going to turn it over to Mark shortly to go into some more detail on why that's exciting, the technical challenges associated with it. I just want to spend a minute, just give you a brief update on who we are and what we do. And so while we've been, legacy different businesses, L3, Cincinnati Electronics, et cetera, we've been a member of the community for a number of decades here. So proud to be part of that. And so what L3 Harris is, there was a merger of L3 Communications and Harris Technologies about a year and a half ago. And we are now the 6th largest defense contractor in the United States. So here in Mason, where we have a headquarters of Space and Sensors, we have a large population of about 700 employees. And then we have other locations throughout the United States where we have employees that help and support us as well, including across Ohio, in Pennsylvania, as well as some in Colorado, Texas. We have some remote folks that many of us are all working with now in New Jersey, as well as in Florida. And so what is it that we do here at Space and Sensors in Mason is we focus on two main, what I would call market thrusts. So on the space side, so that's avionics and communications equipment for launch vehicles, for strategic missiles, as well as space sensors and equipment that goes on satellites, as well as spacecraft. So avionics, what folks may know is that's what controls the guidance that allows spacecraft to fly either autonomously, automatically, or with inputs from the inhabitants, as well as the communications gear. This allows the equipment or the rover, like in Perseverance, to actually talk back and forth, whether it's with spacecraft or all the way back to Earth. On the other side of the business is the sensor business. We focus on electrical, optical, and infrared technology sensors. And so for those that aren't as familiar, electro-optical is the visual spectrum of night vision, like night vision. So for our military servicemen and women on their equipment, so they can be able to see in low light or very dirtied light positions, like in a deep battlefield, if you could imagine, with all the low light there. On the infrared side, so that goes on the infrared spectrum, that's like heat seeking. And so if you can imagine on heat seeking missiles or other heat seeking type of visual apertures. And so in movies, you would see it where they would have type of heat-seeking events or equipment, and they would see all the different colors that come off of bodies or equipment that are yellows and reds, and that's the heat. And so it's our sensors that we design, develop, and produce here in Mason in our factory here that allows for that. So when you look across the business, who do we really serve is primarily the U.S. government and the military servicemen and women with the equipment to give them that advantage on near-peer adversaries. And so we can apply that to all of the fronts, all the domains, whether it's maritime, space, air, and then even in the space domain. And so what our current portfolio and what we're going to talk about a little bit is, where do we serve? So we do those space-based sensors. So if you can imagine being able to track things from outer space, whether it's a heat or in infrared on launches or other activity that are going on. We also do those avionics and communication gear on those launch vehicles. So every time a rocket gets fired up that's offered by United Launch Alliance or by Lockheed Martin, Boeing, et cetera, our gear is on that, controlling the direction and the path in which it goes. Also with the comms. So again, Mark's going to talk about it, but it's the communication. So a spacecraft can talk to one another. It can talk to the payload. It can talk to the space station, and it can also talk to Earth. And we design, develop, and produce that all here in Mason. On the sensor side, we do things like infrared gear that's used on either missile seekers, missile heads, but also on technology that allows some of the latest equipment, like the Joint Strike Fighter, the F-35, has a whole suite of sensors, so it can have full spectrum visibility, and it has that protective capability, so it can look around it 360 degrees. We also do similar equipment for the U.S. Navy and the Army, so whether it's on their helicopters or whether it's on their armored or tracked vehicles. There's also some work that we do on laser beam directors. This is something that we actually built in Pittsburgh, and we consolidated and brought it here. And so we are able to upgrade some of our factory and some of our capability here to expand some of that technology. And so we can do that here in Mason, Ohio as well. So I wanted to quick show you on, so Mark Dapor is our chief technologist. He is an engineering fellow within L3 Harris. And he's been with us, as many of you know, for about 39 years. And so Mark is a bit of a hometown success story. So if you can spend a minute, I'm going to introduce Mark. So born and raised in Ohio, Northern Ohio, on a farm. Attended the University of Dayton, where he got his electronics engineering degree. Moved down here to start with our business here, formerly Cincinnati Electronics. Got his master's degree in electrical engineering at University of Cincinnati. And then through his advancements, even got to attend the Wharton Business School at the University of Pennsylvania for executive development. And so not only does he serve as a fellow, a chief technologist, but he's been personally involved in managing and developing space avionics, communications gear for everything from launch vehicles, satellites on the International Space Station, and now the rover. And so Mark is highly recognized across our industry, across the company, with our competitors as an expert in avionics and comms gear. So it's my pleasure to introduce Mark Dapor, our Chief Technologist.
Thank you very much, Clayton, for those kind words. Very pleased to be here today. We are very excited to talk about the technology that we've brought to Mars. So if you look at the screen here, what you'll see is actually, this is a real photograph that was taken from the hovercraft that was lowering the lander down to the surface of Mars. And landing on Mars is quite an accomplishment. This spacecraft actually is flying at like 26,000 miles per hour. And it has to decelerate through the atmosphere down to just a few meters per second before it actually touches down. So all of these photographs that you're seeing here, high definition photographs, were taken by cameras and stored on board the rover and then transmitted back to Earth through the transceivers that we build here, right here in Mason, Ohio. So it's transmitted to overhead orbiters that are in orbit around Mars. And these transceivers are very high bandwidth transceivers. So we can carry video, and I'll show a little bit of this video, but it's high definition, high frame rate video that you get, and many, many pictures, as well as all of the data that comes back from the surface of Mars. And the technology that we bring, you might say, well, how did Mason get a radio company? Believe it or not, we are the remnants of Powell Crosley's Radio Corporation. That's us. Those radio engineers landed at Cincinnati Electronics and now are the Space Avionics Group at L3 Harris. So the other thing that's really nice about our comlink is the JPL controllers, which are sitting in Pasadena, California. They come to work every day, and they come to work that is concurrent with the Martian day. So the Mars, as it turns out, Mars day is like 9 minutes different than the Earth day. So every single day they come to work and their start time is 9 minutes different. So over the course of a year, they sort of rotate around the clock. But every single day they come in and they decide what they're going to do with the rover that day. What they're going to deploy an instrument, they're going to command it to drive across the creek bed. And when they do that, they actually build a script. And then that script is transmitted from Earth to the orbiting spacecraft around Mars, and then it is transmitted through our transceivers to the rover, and then the rover actually executes that script. So we actually are on both ends of the link. We control the rover through our receiver, and then we also send all of these gorgeous pictures that you're seeing come back from the surface of Mars. During the actual landing, there was like a play-by-play going on, and when I show the video, you'll see that as the JPL engineers were talking about this thing as it was descending and coming down, and that's because of the real-time data that our transceivers were sending back from the landing event. The other thing that I'll mention is this mission was actually launched by the Atlas V rocket on July 30th of last year, right in the middle of the pandemic. And that rocket was flown by our avionics as well. So it was, this mission is super special to us. The one thing that this particular rover is going to do, it's actually collecting samples. So it drives around. They actually were able to land it very precisely in essentially a lake bed. So there used to be running water on the surface of Mars. You can see the features where water used to run. So they were able to drop this right into the middle of the lake bed. It's going to collect samples. Hopefully it'll show signs of some ancient life that were there. And those samples are actually going to return back to Earth on another mission called Mars Sample Return. And we will be providing the comm systems for that Mars sample return as well. Now, this is not the first time that we've actually been on Mars. We've actually supported the JPL for all of the current Mars rovers and most of the Mars orbiters that are out there. So everything since 1998 has come out of Mason, Ohio, and been shipped to JPL in Pasadena, California, installed on the spacecraft, and then launched to Mars. And you can see these rovers on the screen here from Spirit and Opportunity and Curiosity and Perseverance, along with another 5 or 6, I'm going to say 6 orbiters around the planet that are currently orbiting around Mars as we speak. As Clayton mentioned, we have a suite of avionics that we supply to launch vehicles, spacecraft. We fly on the Cygnus and other spacecraft. We are going to help launch astronauts to the International Space Station. And then we also have overhead sensors as well. And there's not a lot of folks around. It's been, even though we got 850 people, a serious number of engineers and scientists that work here. Unfortunately, we're still a little bit of a secret, which is, there's a space company in Mason, Ohio. Yes, there is. And we do a lot. So if you look here, you can see all the different satellites that we've flown on, all the different launches that we've had since 2010. So we're very, very active. We ship as much space hardware as probably any avionics company in the United States. So we're a very large space avionics house right here in Mason, Ohio. The next generation, so the NASA retired the shuttle. So the next generation deep space vehicle is called SLS, Space Launch System. And they just had the green run for that. You may have seen that in the news last week or week and a half, where they actually hot fired the first stage for this. But this is the rocket that is going to bring humans back to the moon. It's going to put the first woman on the moon. And it's also going to be the vehicle that brings us to Mars. And all of those boxes you see around that vehicle right there are all units that we designed and developed right here in Mason. And one other fun fact about something that we do right here in Mason is we actually do the comm system for the Worldview fleet of satellites. So that's actually a commercial constellation of satellites that are in orbit right now, and they take photographs of the Earth. And they built what's called the digital globe. So they basically have photographed the whole surface of the Earth and built this digital globe and sell this imagery to the general public. So when you go on the internet and you click on satellite view and say, you know, everybody looks at their own house, right? They want to see what their yard looks like. So you click on that and you look in the corner of that picture and it'll say courtesy digital globe or courtesy GOI. All those pictures came through our transceivers. And we've been on orbit for since the mid-90s, bringing all those photographs back. And we continue to support deep space. One thing about deep space is you plan far out into the future. So we have already delivered some hardware for what's called the Europa Clipper, which is a new mission that's going to go out to Jupiter's moon, Europa. So it's not going to launch for another 6 or 7 years, but we've already supplied that particular hardware. So with that, let me see if I can pull up this video real quick, and I'll just add a little commentary. It should have sound, yeah. So one thing you can see here is the actual parachutes deploying.
Navigation has confirmed that the parachute has deployed, and we are seeing significant deceleration in the velocity. Our current velocity is 440 meters per second at an altitude of about 12 kilometers from the surface of Mars.
Yeah, so it's a very complex landing. And then there's an aero shell.
Slowed to subsonic speeds, and the heat shield has been separated. This allows both the radar and the cameras to get their first look at the surface. Current velocity is 145 meters per second at an altitude of about 9.5 kilometers above the surface.
Yeah, so that aero shell allowed the spacecraft to slow down as it was entering the Martian atmosphere. And then the parachutes allowed it to slow down even further. And then there was one final stage, which is the hovercraft that actually lowered it down. And I'll show that here.
About to conduct the sky crane maneuver.
Yeah, so you can actually see
Sky crane maneuver has started.
The dust blowing on the surface of Mars. There's a pretty decent atmosphere on Mars. And you can actually see the hover vehicle, which is on the upper left. And it's actually lowering the rover
Tango Delta
onto the surface.
Confirmed. Perseverance safely on the surface of Mars, ready to begin seeking the signs of past life.
So what I'll mention is that we weren't in Pasadena, but we had a whole room full of people that worked on this Mars transceiver sitting in our conference room watching this live as well. So same thing, people jumping up and yelling and screaming and happy that it was successful. So with that, thank you very much for inviting us. We're very proud of what we do, and we're proud to be here in the city of Mason. Thanks.
Thank you. That was fantastic. I mean, it was actually out of this world. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Thank you, Mr. McLean and Mr. Dapor. It's just such a pleasure and honor to have you here along with Ms. Benna. Thank you for being with us. We're so proud of you and so impressed. And to think that the history of L3 Harris goes all the way back to Pal Crosley days and the WLW radio tower, which we have that symbol of that history here. It's so interesting to learn. And it kind of goes to show you how important business retention is in Mason, how we value that and how we value those relationships that we work so hard on. I know our economic development director works very hard at that. So we're just so pleased to have you. I know, Michelle, do you have some more comments to share? And are there any council comments or questions that you might have for our guests? Go ahead.
Mayor, I don't, but certainly if council has questions, I know that this would be a great opportunity to do it. And I did neglect to mention though that we collect headlines and news, and I think Mason to Mars is probably my top of all the exciting things that we've had, that we definitely were excited to see that. So hopefully there'll be some additional ones. So if you have questions.
I mean, I have one question, and you may not be able to answer it. You involved with Pine Gap in Australia? Thank you.
That's classified. No. Oh. Yes, go ahead.
I just ordered today, this is kind of funny, it's the Bluetooth thing that you can put into a USB port that communicates to a, like a Sonos speaker, and I'm nervous about figuring that out. And you guys are talking about landing something on Mars and collecting data and sending it back to see if there's life form. I mean, I'm sitting there going, maybe I need to get a little more in tune with my technology aptitude, but thank you guys so much. I mean, it's crazy. I drive down Innovation Way all the time and obviously see L3 sitting over there to the left. And I was actually at a wedding one time, and this gal works at AtriCure. And she asked me, she said, what do they do at L3? I said, I don't know, but I think it's some pretty cool stuff. I know it's technology, this, that, and everything else. So I can happily go back and report that I know. And so thank you guys so much for this. I mean, it's as the mayor said, it's out of this world. So really cool. Crazy.
I just want to say thank you for coming here and giving us that presentation. And of course, we're streamed live as well. So a lot of people are watching over Zoom. I'm sure that they're very excited to hear. This was really interesting. I really appreciate you guys coming. And thank you for being located in Mason and trusting us with your business. We really appreciate it. And you've put us on the map. So that's a great thing. Thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, Mayor, I would just follow up and say, again, thanks for the presentation. Outstanding, as they said, out of this world. It's great to see Mason business bringing this kind of technology to the space program and all that lies ahead. We look forward to seeing the great things coming down the road. Thanks.
Mayor, I want to echo everybody else. How exciting to get to see this and see what you guys are doing and providing the video for us and for everybody else. I got a personal interest just because I have one son that just joined the Army, and he been explaining to me some of this night vision scopes and some of the stuff he has. He's just got sent to Germany. And my oldest son is studying astrophysics up at Ohio State, and he graduates in May. So I have two sons that both you tie right into both of what they're doing. So it's funny when your kids study stuff, how much you learn yourself, on it. So thank you. It's very interesting.
Well, I'd like to ask a question. As a former educator, I'm interested in this. So, Mr. Dapor, we heard a little bit about your educational pathway, but what would you tell a dreaming 8th grader or 10th grader or someone that's still a student now and thinking, wow, how could I work for a company like L3? What kind of pathways are possible for your, I know you have probably a broad spectrum of employees with 850, but there are all kinds of pathways one could take. Do you have any recommendations? We're constantly trying to think about ways to help develop the workforce as city government. Would you mind stepping up to the podium so all can hear? Thank you.
We are certainly always looking for new talent. And in fact, I'm going to say when I first started, we only had about 200 employees. So we've grown from 200 to 850 over the years, and we have always had our eye open for talented folks. And what I can recommend is that what we're looking for is people that are interested in science and technology, and they have a natural curiosity. And they have this natural curiosity about how things work and how to make things better. And we've gotten to the point where we are absolutely able to encourage those folks. We do a lot of work with local universities as well. And we have a very active co-op program as well, as we bring folks in to work and work in this high-tech field and try to get them interested. The other thing that we do is we try to encourage, just like engagements like this, try to encourage people to become interested in technology and space. And it's only going to be 10 or 20 years when many of our children will fly in space. Some of us might even be able to, but certainly our children will be able to fly in space. And it's an up and coming field. And it's one that's near and dear to my heart, and I love to talk about it.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Michelle?
To Mark's point, I think you may be one of the largest co-op programs for the University of Cincinnati. You have many students and PhDs and very educated national assets that help drive this. And so that's a great question. I think it was really nice to hear about Mark's pathway in terms of, being a part of the program and then continuing your education. And I neglected to give Clayton a proper bio introduction as well, but certainly Clayton's pathway is very interesting too, beyond engineering through your master's degree, and then also at the Kellogg School of Business and the Wharton School. So it's nice to, really understand what it takes to be part of driving the space program. So I know that we'll have more engagement and opportunities to work with the school system and L3 as the years progress.
That's wonderful. We sure are grateful. Would you mind allowing us to pose in a photo with you? Our special guest. We normally do this when we have special guests who present. Oh, that's so great. Council, would you join us so we can commemorate this? This is a great memory for us. I mean, we're really geeking out up here. This is really special to have you here. So thank you. Perhaps I could ask a question on behalf of parents of teenagers, and not that this happens in our house, but did any of you successful executives ever play video games when you were in college or high school or junior high? Is that an important part of developing for this trajectory to end up working in this capacity? And I have to ask you to answer in the microphone or nobody will hear you watching. But I know there are parents like me that are like, wow, are you still playing video games? You want to read a book?
I hate to date myself, but video games were, when I was growing up in school, video games were not available. They really weren't. So, but what I'll say is my sons played video games intensely, and one is a very, very smart engineer, and the other one is a very, very smart computer scientist. So it served them well.
Thank you for that. So, yeah, I know. I was hoping you'd say, no, tell them to read books. So it's okay. We're trying. Well, we thank you so much. What a blessing and joy it has been to have you here. And so we will segue into our next item on the agenda, which is recognition of visitors. So thank you so much, our friends from L3 Harris, and thank you, Michelle. And do we have anybody here in the building that would like to address council? I see one. Come on up, Mr. Inskeep. Make sure you state your name at the podium. And do we have anybody waiting online? We do not. Okay. All right.
Rick Inskeep. About 2 weeks ago, we had another car hit a telephone pole on our street. And that's 2 of them within a quarter of a mile that have been hit and damaged. Now I realize that council doesn't care and isn't going to do their usual nothing about it, but that's not the purpose why I'm here. The reason why I'm here is I'm trying to create a record so that when somebody gets seriously injured or killed because of the dangerous road conditions that currently exist, them or their family can sue the city for negligence or failure to act. And I hope that when that happens, that the money amount that is involved will either bankrupt this city or cause your insurance premiums to go sky high. Maybe when that happens, you people will start to listen to the residents. Because I know in the 30 years that I've lived in this town, over in my neighborhood, there has never been a council member in that area. And so we have never been listened to. And sooner or later, it's going to stop. Now, unfortunately, it's probably going to take a serious injury or a death and somebody suing the city before you people start to listen. But unfortunately, given this council's past history, I doubt it'd even do it then.
Anyone else? Thank you, Mr. Inskeep. We'll take that into consideration. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak at this time? Okay, seeing that there are none, we will move on to item 9 on the agenda, which is resolution 2021-4. I need a motion to read by title only, please.
So moved.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Jeff?
Proclaiming the week of April 25th through May 1st of 2021 as Clean Water Week.
Eric?
Yes, Mayor, we have a couple of other special guests here, starting with our Director of Public Utilities, Sean Holland, who can give us a little bit of information on this, as well as some other good news.
Welcome, Mr. Sean Holland.
Again, we'd like to thank the administration and council for recognizing Clean Water Week. Not so much about Clean Water Week, but the staff at Public Utilities. I think we have a highly talented staff that has worked together to strengthen each other to build a good team. A few years ago, we had what you would call a split staff where you had maintenance and operators. And then we developed into environmental technicians where we cross-trained both of those crews. It makes us stronger. And then we also do a lot of work with the pools. We do a lot of work with economic developments, industrial pretreatment, stormwater. You kind of think of public utilities, you think of wastewater plant, but you have to be you have to be an electrician, a plumber, a biologist, a chemist, computer science. So there's a lot to it. We have a great staff. I'd like to recognize each of them for their contributions. And then one of the good things we did, and I have to give Assistant City Manager Jennifer Heff credit for this, we did an internship program. I believe it was 2 years ago. It gets kind of skewed with the pandemic, where we brought in kids from Mason City Schools, and like L3 was discussing, how do you develop career paths, especially for when you say wastewater treatment, because most kids don't say, hey, I want to go into wastewater treatment as a career. So we had a successful internship program. We ran 2 kids through it. It was 2,080 hours, that's what's required to obtain a wastewater treatment license. One of the kids went on to college after that, and another one's still employed with the city of Mason. And it was a real neat program. I know Jennifer and a lot of other people in administration helped work on that. It was like the Mason M with the career path, and all the functions, different functions like operating the plant, the lab, the collection system, industrial pretreatment. They had to complete all that to get through the internship program. And then their final goal was to get a license. So one of the things that we noticed about our staff during that time is that they're all teachers. They all wanted to help each other learn what their specific trade is, because we've got great plumbers, we've got great mechanics, great electricians. Not one person's perfect at everything, but they all work together as a team. And the license, getting a license is a pretty big deal. To even go out and check the lift stations or collection systems, the Ohio EPA requires you to have a license, and then you have to log that down, your time out in the field. And the same thing with the wastewater plant. Mason has a large wastewater plant that's complicated. So you have to have a class 4 wastewater operator that has to be on site 40 hours a week, and that means at the plant, unless you have a class 3 operator that takes 20 hours of that. So we have 2 managers. We have Josh Creech and Ed Smith with us tonight that were fulfilling 20 hours of that time, because myself or Ed or Josh or even the staff are never at the plant, because we're always out at the pool. We're doing things with economic development. We're doing things at the city building. We're collaborating with E&B. So one of our goals was to get more class 4 operators. And prior to me coming here in 4 years, I know Ed Smith was on that track. And in the last 2 years, Ed has worked diligently at home to complete his class 4 license. I know he said he had a room set up with his Surface Pro where it's quiet. And he'd come in sometimes, and it's a lot of work. Some of the things that Ed had to complete, I had to write them down. So as part of this, it's kind of a synopsis of your whole career. And unfortunately for Ed, he's got 29 and a half years. So that probably got in his head. How does he summarize his career and all his experience that he has with the city of Mason and put it into a document? So the things that Ed had to outline and write about is administration, budget, the wastewater plant. And it sounds simple, but it's not just the wastewater plant. It's every aspect of the plant, how it runs, how it designs, how it's designed, how it runs differently than it was designed, the lab, research, design. I know Ed's done tons of research, design, publications, budget. Did I already say budget? Safety program planning. And one of the big things I give Ed a lot of credit for that he may not get credit for is staff training and development. I know specifically when I came here, Ed has always helped me try to learn Mason's system. You don't learn a wastewater plant or a collection system, which are the sewer pipes. You don't learn it in a year. You don't learn it in 2 years. Ed's like Yoda with the collection system. He knows where every manhole's at. He knows when every sewer was put in. So a wealth of knowledge. And then Ed's been instrumental as well as when we've done cross training, because Ed's always been over the maintenance side to train the operators on the maintenance side and vice versa, come up with plans, scheduling, as well as on the internship program. So Ed, congratulations on getting your class 4. You could probably say it better.
I was hoping we could have him come up here so that the cameras can see Ed. We can see Ed and the rest of your team who may be here. Yeah, we want our public to be able to see Ed. Wow, 30 years. He looks so young. He was just 10 when he started. Look at that. Oh, wow. Well, thank you for coming over, Ed.
Sean said, it's took me 2 years and it's been a long, I'm not by any means a writer or a public speaker. I'm glad it's behind me. I applaud anybody that takes it on. I think Josh is beginning to start his path that way. It's a struggle, especially for somebody that is not a writer by any stretch of the imagination. Probably one of the proudest things that I've ever done. Was able to put that document together and get it approved by the EPA. So I appreciate the recognition tonight.
Would it be possible to get a photograph with Ed? I mean, 30 years, class 4, that's pretty spectacular. Council, come on up.
Mayor, maybe while you're gathering for the photo, I just wanted to add a couple of 2 cents. We've struggled in the past. Class 4 operators are rare because it takes so much effort. We were fortunate to attract Sean. I don't know how many Class 4s are in the state. It's a small universe. How many municipalities have 2 Class 4s and on track to have 3 is pretty unique and pretty critical to the residents. And I think we need one with Laura. Sorry, also wanted to add, because I'm not sure Sean did, but with part of how we arranged the department, with Ed's receiving the Class 4, he also receives a promotion in title. He's now Assistant Director of the Public Utilities Department.
Bravo. That's fantastic. What a legacy you will be leaving us. You're keeping us safe now in the present tense, but you've also built into the careers of so many others. So thank you for that. And thank you, Sean, for your presentation. And thank you, Laura, for all the support that you provide so that Ed can do what he does for all of us. We appreciate you all very much. So we'll move on. We need to adopt this motion. So I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading, please.
So moved.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion to adopt?
So moved.
Any council discussion? Let's call the roll, please.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gilb,
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw,
Yes.
Mayor Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Chance.
Yes.
Item 10 on the agenda is Ordinance 2021-48. We need a motion to read that by title only, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Jeff?
Adopting Section 121.08 of the Mason Codified Ordinances regarding public participation at council meetings.
Eric?
Yes, Mayor. This has been discussed several times in the course of this year. Council has talked about how to establish some guidelines to help meetings operate more efficiently, to provide for easier and broader participation from the community. These were initially discussed at the January 11th meeting when the concept was introduced. They were then presented for council members' consideration at the meeting on January 25th. They were then tabled and given some legal review, further evaluation by Jeff Forbes, legal counsel for the city. There were a few revisions made based on that. At our last meeting, a revised draft was presented. And at that meeting, council members discussed that and voted to recommend that legislation be brought forward to codify these rules, which means that they would be adopted through legislation and then include in the city's codified ordinances as the default rules for council meetings. The appropriate place for that to occur is what's called Chapter 121 of the Mason Codified Ordinances, which has some other regulations, guidelines for council and council meetings. With that process and those recommendations, Ordinance 2021-48 adopts an additional section to Chapter 121 for the guidelines that council has been discussing.
Thank you. We need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading, please.
So moved?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? A motion to adopt, please.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any council discussion on this one? All right, let's call the roll, please.
Bradburn,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gilb,
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw,
Yes.
Mayor Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson.
Yes.
Item 11 is committee reports. I think Mr. Bradburn might have a report to give us, and then we'll if anybody else has one, let me know and we'll follow him.
Public safety had some discussions with the city manager actually today. We will be holding a meeting in regards to tornado sirens, generator, third medic unit, fire station locations before the next meeting. Okay, we'll have a report back on that. And then also in the city manager's report, I know that we had a Laura Knop. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. City manager has included in the packet a list of agencies that can be contacted in regards to people that homeless, lost their way, maybe some emotional issues or whatever. So city manager, I don't know how we can, I want to, respond back to Ms. Knop on that. And then I don't know how we, it's maybe something for Centerpoint, maybe something for our magazine.
I believe it's Ms. Knoop, and Jennifer Heft has been in contact with her.
Okay.
Provide her the information that we haven't already. And I think we had discussed providing some resources both through social media as well as Centerpoint.
And I don't know if council had a chance to read it, if they have any comments they might want to make in regards to those agencies or not, but it looks like there is a laundry list of agencies that people can turn to. Obviously, our police and fire are attuned to that particular problem, and I'm quite sure no matter what, they're willing to help.
Thank you very much. Anyone else with the committee report? I think downtown is set to meet. Is that Thursday? Do you want to mention that?
Yes. So this Thursday at 8 a.m., the downtown committee will be meeting. And then at 9 a.m., are we? Yes, thank you. Looking for confirmation there because I couldn't remember the last meeting. I think we said we weren't quite sure if we were going to still meet every month. Wasn't that correct? So, but with this, we will meet this Thursday at 9 a.m. with the Veterans Commission.
Thank you. And we're working on getting another policy and legislation committee scheduled in the next 2 weeks before the next council meeting. Okay, anyone else on committee reports? All right, item 12 is old and new business. Does anybody have some old and new business to share? Oh, I have one item, if I could just do it really quickly, and then we'll toss it to Member Nelson in just a second. I have a request. I need a confirming vote for the reappointment of David Smith to the Port Authority, the Mason Port Authority. We missed him last meeting. Is there such a motion?
That motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Thank you, David. You are confirmed, and we thank you for your service on the Mason Port Authority. Okay, Member Nelson, thank you.
Thank you. Just to give you an update of what's going on in the legislation, last week I was on a Zoom call with the National League of Cities to review the local government relief aid allocation in the $1.9 trillion American Recovery Plan relief package. States and the District of Columbia will receive $195.3 billion of the funding. Local governments will receive $130.2 billion divided evenly between the cities and the counties. $45.57 billion will be allocated to municipalities with populations of 50,000 or more. $19.53 billion will be allocated to municipalities with populations less than 50,000. $65.1 billion will be allocated to counties based on population and sent directly from the Department of Treasury to the counties. Warren County is expected to get $45.5 million. Although I believe in the Inquirer just the other day, I read that the county commissioners might send it back. So we'll have to keep you posted on that. Funding will be distributed by the Treasury in 2 tranches, one within 60 days of enactment, and the second one a year after the disbursement of the first tranche. Funds will be sent to the state to distribute to local government communities based on population within 30 days of receipt, unless there is an extension granted, which will be no more than 120 days. States cannot change the allocation of these funds. Attorney General David Yost has filed a federal lawsuit to seek a block on the provision in the $1.9 trillion coronavirus relief plan, which prevents the states and local governments from using the federal funds to offset the losses from tax cuts and credits. Which is really important because a lot of these communities are really hurting, and that would be a great way for them to use their funds. Included in the American Recovery Plan is a retroactive exclusion of the first $10,200 of unemployment benefits received in 2020 for taxpayers with modified adjusted gross income of $150 or less. And this just passed. A number of people have already filed their federal income tax returns, and they've already paid taxes on these benefits. The IRS has recently put out a statement telling everyone who has already filed, who has unemployment benefits, not to file an amended return, and that the IRS will send you the refund, send you the difference. So if you have not filed yet, and you have unemployment compensation from 2020, I would wait to file. The Ohio House Ways and Means Committee on March 16th held its 5th hearing on tax conformity legislation with Senate Bill 18, but did not vote on the bill. The legislation will ensure Ohio's deductibility of the forgiven PPP loan expenses, change in the filing due date to conform with federal, which is May 17th, which impacts Mason, and make the retroactive provisions so Ohio taxpayers do not pay tax on that $10,200 of unemployment income. So if you have unemployment, wait, because we're waiting for Ohio. Half the tax season is already over with, and we're still trying to figure out how to file some of these. I had a Zoom meeting with Representative Scott Lips and Senator Wilson regarding this pressing bill. Like I just said, tax season is half over, and we can't file these because until this bill passes, we're kind of at a standstill. The Ohio House and the Ohio Department of Taxation are reviewing whether to conform to all the provisions or decouple from anything in the enacted version of the American Rescue Plan Act. They're expected to vote on it tomorrow. Needless to say, Congress has made a mess of this tax filing season. So I will make sure to keep you posted on that in the next meeting, but I'm sure you're going to hear if it passes soon before our next meeting, hopefully.
Thank you. That was a bundle. I appreciate all of those updates. Very well done. And our best wishes to you as you persevere through this harrowing tax season. I know it is a lot of stress. So thank you for that. Does anybody else have any old or new business this evening? Yes, Vice Mayor.
If I could weigh in, I don't really have any old or new business. I just recognize we have an anniversary of shutdowns that came upon us. And I read a recent article that was in the Wall Street Journal, just published on March 12th, written by Jason Gay. And he says, as a window opens, he's making a plea for patience and grace. And he says that this past year has certainly been stressful and scattered. We're lumbering toward the wind down. At least that's the hope. We aren't close to out of it yet, but we appear to be improving. And he says, I think it's okay to talk about this. We should feel comfortable acknowledging vulnerability, conceding our doubts. Admitting struggle doesn't make you a whiner. It's quite the opposite. It's a ferocious display of strength. I'm hopeful that with all that we've been through this past year, that it will turn us into being more emphatic listeners. How hard is it to listen? As we move forward, let us move forward with patience and grace towards each other and with a renewed commitment to listen to each other. I just thought it was fitting to share that as we look at this anniversary. Certainly, we're hopeful that we continue to improve as we move out of this pandemic. And as we do so, let us be better listeners to one another. Thanks.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. You ready?
Yeah, just really quick. In regards to the $1.9 trillion being handed out to the government, I'm a little concerned, in regards to, you think Congress made a mess of, tax filing season. I just feel like as if, them handing out all this money, I think the repercussions of them giving out all this money, I'm just curious to see what strings are attached to it. So I'm encouraging not only the city of Mason, but Warren County, state of Ohio. It's good, I guess, when the mighty man in the government wants to write checks or give out money that I don't really think we have to be giving out. But I think we better be at least making sure we're looking at the strings that are attached to these funds, because I'm guessing it's things. I mean, if we looked at the 1.9 trillion, 8.6% of it went to COVID relief, and I think that's just it's abhorrent that that's happening. And so, again, county commissioners, whatever, if they deny the $45 million, I don't know. I'm just saying, I guarantee there's some strings attached to this money that we might not want to be attached to. So, and with the provisions with what Mr. Yost did, I'd be, I guess, or I'm assuming that that's probably some of their thoughts, because was there 21 other?
Right. If I can comment,
Sure.
Mayor. Yes, actually, on my Zoom call with Representative Lips and Senator Wilson, they were ready to sign. Ohio was ready to sign to conform with federal. But then after this passed, there is a number of things in that bill that, and he didn't go into details, but he said that if they're looking, they have to look through it very carefully, because there are some provisions in there that may be damaging, and they don't want to just, hurry up and sign it. They want to make sure that they're really paying attention to it. So he didn't go into detail, like I said, about what it is, but there are some concerns in that bill, which is why it is taking so long.
And to that end, I think the major strings are the ones that our grandchildren and their children will have to deal with, because it's, there's no magic fairy. That money isn't exactly free. Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for all the information you all shared today. Is there anything else? All right, let's move on. Item 13 is recognition of visitors. Do we have anybody here or online that wishes to address council? I don't see anybody in the house, and we don't have anybody online. So we'll go ahead and close that portion of the agenda, and we're ready for item 14, which is executive session. So I need a motion to adjourn into executive session for the purpose of discussing acquisition and/or disposition of property.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Okay, let's call the roll, please.
Vice Mayor Gilb,
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw,
Yes.
Mayor Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn.
Yes.
Thank you. Everyone.
Would ask council to remain in the chambers as our guest